I had my stroke in December 2010. At the time I was in full-time work. I was able to run up and down stairs. But on the day I had the stroke, my life completely changed. And I spent 3 months in hospital. It left me physically disabled, but fortunately my cognition was okay and my memory wasn't affected so much. But it was the physical aspect that really affected me, because I felt very isolated. I could hardly walk further than 20 yards. I was totally dependent on my wife to take me out anywhere. So I felt very isolated and vulnerable. 5 years down the road, I do feel a lot more confident. Still have my low moments, but I'm more positive now than I am negative.
Yeah.
So.
My stroke didn't affect me particularly physically. I had my left side was slightly weakened, and I couldn't write, and I couldn't use a keyboard. And again, because I couldn't work, it made a big difference. So I did feel isolated because I was never somebody who was at home all week.
Yeah.
So being there all week and saying, or somebody said, "Oh, you must find it fun watching TV," and I just think, no, I don't. And I felt very vulnerable when I went out and trying to speak to people, because the thing that did affect me was I felt my vocal cords and my speech were the only thing which are lagging, and they were lagging because my brain function wasn't joined up, but I still feel in myself I'm not the same person.
There's a disconnect.
Yeah. No, and when I get tired, my words get a bit slurry. But again, it just saps your confidence, because if you think you're a bit dull, it's the world to you. Yeah. Although to other people you think, it's an endearing factor, but for me it's not. It's not. No. And the different person I turned into 4 years on, I feel a lot better. And because I've got quite young kids, I have to.
You feel you have to be on top of your form. Yeah.
You just have no let up. It's hard because I've still got to be up at 6:30 to get my son up. Yeah. And it's isolation.
So you've still got the responsibility.
Yeah, and you've just got all those feelings running around inside you when you're having a bad day, and you're just. It's hard at certain days. It's not easy. But I find I'm still beating myself up about my brain not working as well. Yeah. Especially when it comes to reading, writing, and all those sorts of things. But that is when my confidence is at its worst. When I think, I'm not the same person.
My confidence has been knocked, and sometimes you think I can't do anything, and then you've got to remind yourself.
Yes,
you can do something. Yeah,
so when you do achieve, I try and reinforce it, whether I never used to. No. Just say, you're great, you've done this.
Yeah, it was part of life, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you just took it, but now I sort of big it up and sort of say, you did do that.
With Andy, he had 2 bleeds, which affected the right side, his memory, his speech. All sorts of different things, his eyesight as well, so he can no longer drive. He used to play in a band. He was out all the time. He can't do that now. His social aspect has changed completely. He would be so life and soul of the party. He isn't anymore. He struggles. There's lots of things that he can do, but it takes him a long time. And his personality has completely changed. Whereas before, if something didn't work or he couldn't get to do it, he would struggle through and he would manage to. But now he just gives up completely, and it's that he has temper tantrums because of the stroke. He doesn't know how to cope with his feelings sometimes. So that's got a big impact.
For me, the real big change is Chris's personality. Mm-hmm. Chris has always been a really outgoing person. She's always been confident in her own abilities. Yeah. The biggest changes is that before Chris she was the most placid person I've ever known. And that's changed quite dramatically. you know, if I was grumpy, she would very much, you know, she'd just kind of start laughing and we'd have a joke about it, and then she'd deflate me and I wouldn't be grumpy anymore, and we'd have a good laugh. She would never argue back. She'd just say, "Oh, Heather, let's have a laugh about it."
Yeah.
But now she reacts, and she can react quite strongly sometimes. And it's kind of, it took me aback. So I found that really difficult to come to terms with. And also, she's not very good at socialising now, whereas she used to be. I mean, she doesn't actually want to go out.
Yes.
She doesn't want to leave the house because it's very difficult for her.
When I had a stroke and I couldn't go back to doing what I used to do in work, my concentration is shot, really, and you have to be on the ball all the time. And my memory's not what it used to be, and often I find it when I get tired, my ability to speak is flawed, and to me it seems different, so I lose confidence. So the whole thing of work has become something that I crave, but it's so frightening because all the problems I have post the stroke come rearing their ugly heads. You know, it's very hard to think about all that information I used to have at the tip of my fingers.
I did try to go back to work in October, and I was only working 3 hours twice a week. But I just found even things that came to me naturally before, and I had to keep saying to people, well, how do I do this? It took me a long time. I've accepted now I'm not going to be able to go back to work, but I'm not saying I'm never work, because I'd like to do some voluntary stuff.
Yeah.
My life didn't start turning around really until I was able to get my licence back about 15 months after the stroke. I was able to go out independently, meet my friends independently, and my wife didn't have to worry too much either. So I suppose from a year and a half in, things started to look a lot more positive then. Still felt vulnerable and isolated, even though I was able to get out and about.
Yeah, I was going to say that, you know, even though I had my licence after 6 months, I felt less confident when I was driving.
Yeah, I mean, I drive differently now. I'm a lot more cautious, whereas when I was working, I used to just jump in the car, put the car in first gear, and off I went, bombed off. Now it takes me about 5 minutes to settle myself in the car, check everything's okay. I've got my car's adapted for me because I've only got one hand, so I have to make sure that my device is working. So it takes me literally 5 minutes before I start off, and then when I'm driving around the place, I'm not Mr. Slow, but I'm certainly not as quick as I used to be. So if I'm going somewhere, I have to add on about 20 minutes to make sure I get there in plenty of time.